Welcome to the Honest EP podcast. We are the podcast for health professionals and the wider community looking to explore diverse ideas in health, ask some hard questions, and have some honest conversations. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based on Sydney's Northern Beaches. And joining me as always is allied health business owner, Andrew. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. It is a wonderful Monday afternoon and we have beers. And the beers have been brought by Jo Duncan-Nagy. Should I say it like that?
No.
Okay. How would you prefer? I panic every time I get to your
Just
last
Joe's
name.
good.
Just Joe. All right, just Joe. Joe, the EP from Rebound, is back for episode 2. I was worried because I thought we did a third one for a bit.
I think I just talked a lot about it and then didn't actually do anything. So this is only the second time I've been on.
Only the second time. Okay, well, the first time you brought on a beer called Pacifico. I remember that. And It was our first beer out of a bottle. And today, you've suggested another beer that we have out of a bottle. So, Joe, what do we have?
We are having White Rabbit Dark Ale. I quite like dark ale, but I don't know other people's feelings on it. Andrew?
I think the only dark ale that I've really had is the White Rabbit Dark Ale.
Oh, right.
And I'm a big fan.
Well, you can tell me what it's like then. So I've actually
I'll
never
tell
had
you
it.
all about it.
You're a big fan.
I am a big fan.
Wow. Do you want to open it,
I should
Joe?
probably taste it so
Probably.
that I can talk about what I'm tasting.
Let's do that. Yeah, go for it. Just click it open in front of the mic.
Okay. I
Set.
didn't quite.
Ooh, that sounds nice. That's good. All right, well, you can pass it around and
Yeah, I
we'll do
don't
our own ones.
think I'm a pro at
and,
that.
and you can have a sip, Joe, while we open ours.
Okay.
And
A smell and a sip.
you can smell it if you want.
I can smell now, so I will.
Hey, COVID is finished.
Yes. all done.
Wonderful. So I just
Oh,
remember.
What a choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. It doesn't taste like a dark beer, does it?
What does it taste like?
Like if I couldn't tell that this was a dark beer right now, it could be a lager.
Oh, I thought it tasted like hot chocolate or something.
No. It just tastes like a smooth beer.
It's beautiful.
I remember I used to pour these at the golf club I worked at, and they were the worst tap we had because I don't know if it was because it was a dark beer and it kind of acted like Guinness where you pour it and it just foams and froths and you have to sit there and wait for it to...
But it's an art form, Archie.
Yeah,
Pouring a Guinness properly.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
takes time. And you just have to stand... I went to an Irish pub and I had to stand there and wait for like 2 minutes for them to pour me one beer. I was like,
Patience is a virtue, Archie.
it's just a shit beer. I want a beer now.
It's hard work waiting for it. So
It is
when
hard
you
work.
finally get it,
I'm sad.
Thirsty.
No, it's worth it. This is good. This is very good. Andrew, what do you think?
I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. Yeah, it definitely doesn't taste like a very rich, dark ale. You could have a few of these
yes.
and
I plan to.
not feel bloated and gross.
Well, that's, I think, why I like dark beer. That's what I've realised is because it's not bubbly.
Ah.
Because the bubbly makes me feel unwell.
Right. Okay. You're not normally a beer person,
Never.
but
Yeah.
a dark beer.
But a
you'll
dark
do.
beer.
Which is interesting because I feel like dark beer is almost the beeriest tasting beer to
But I
some
also
people.
pretty much only drink really like dark red wines, like heavy red wines. So there's a bit of a theme.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about, very on topic, having honest or difficult conversations with clients and how to manage difficult or challenging client behavior.
Interesting. So do you want to give us a little overview of some of the main headings we'll dive into, and then Andrew will pick one and he'll start with a question.
Okay, so we are going to talk about different reasons that a client might exhibit behaviors that are challenging, what might be trying to be communicated by clients when they're exhibiting these behaviors, how to remain calm and how to manage your own behavior when things are getting tough, and also managing inappropriate behavior. If we have time, we might talk about self-care as well. Yeah.
If we have time, we'll see.
I think a great place to start would be actually getting some clarity, I suppose, on what are challenging behaviours. Like, what are we actually seeing in the clients or the patients that we're working with?
So something that I see relatively often during the clinic with private clients would be non-adherence to treatment programs or treatment plans that you've come up together. That can be hard to workshop. And a tough conversation, particularly if you're new as an EP, because it can be hard to kind of confront like the elephant in the room, you could say. Other difficult client behaviours might be behaviours that clients are exhibiting because of a health condition or a diagnosis such as autism. Might be like a stimming behaviour or a self-regulatory behaviour that you haven't seen before, or that might be a little bit aggressive. Those are the main things. What about you, Archie?
Yeah, similar. Definitely some of the stimming behaviours from like our autistic clients. But then I think some of the most difficult behaviours I feel like I have to manage sometimes are just your everyday people, everyday person who comes in, but they just have some very strong views on a certain topic that maybe in a group class or in a gym setting aren't super appropriate to talk about. Some of the main ones I try and avoid getting too deep into conversations with people from different demographics is religion and politics and some of like the political correctness or the different things we've had recently around using gender pronouns and that sort of thing. And you get some clients who don't care about what other people think, but have a very strong view. And, you know, a classic one is we'll start a group class and you'll have someone go, all right, what pronouns are everyone using today? And you go, oh, fuck. It's like, can you not do that? You know, can you not say that? It's just inappropriate, you know?
Another thing that I think of is commenting on people's bodies is a big one that maybe I didn't expect starting private practice. But just, when people comment on others' appearances or sometimes in a negative way and you think, oh, wow, like, I can't believe you just said that out loud. Should I address this and how do I do it? It can be really tough.
Then sometimes in, not a positive way, but in a supposed to be complimentary way, but comes across in like don't talk like that. You know, that's inappropriate to kind of, you know, talk about someone's appearance if they're in a group class with you or if they're your health professional. Not appropriate.
I imagine that some of the audience that listen to this podcast are fairly new or recent graduates. How do they know? How do people know what is an appropriate versus an inappropriate behaviour?
Have you ever had something said to you and you've had a strong emotional feeling about it? I think that's often a way to identify if something's making you uncomfortable. As well as cognitively, we know that some things are appropriate to say and not appropriate to say based on, like, our way of viewing the world might be different based on our age and our upbringing and that sort of thing. But generally things that trigger that emotional response and make you uncomfortable or unsettled, or you can see visually that it's making somebody else uncomfortable, those are things that kind of flag in my mind. How do you feel if someone says something and you go, ooh?
Yeah, because I imagine it could be easy for some of these challenging behaviours that we're talking about for people to almost like kind of rationalise it and not discuss it or not bring it up and just sort of go, oh, that's just them. You know, they're a bit set in their ways, or, you know, I'm not going to bring this up because I don't want to make it something more than it is. But I think you've articulated that really well, where it's like, if you have a response to something, then that kind of sets the precedent. Well, it's not okay, but what do you do about it?
It's a super hard situation because you can make the choice to just accept it and go, oh, I won't challenge this and I won't directly comment about it or call them up on it, and therefore just kind of ignore and allow it to happen. Or you can go, no, the right thing to do is to bring this up with them, and then potentially not damage, but like, see how strong your relationship is with this person for them to respect what you're asking them and talking to them about.
Actually, a question that I have for both of you is, if something does make us uncomfortable, do you think it's important for practitioners to say something?
Yes. Sorry, I was nodding, but that's not very helpful on a podcast. Yes. I don't think it's always a bad idea, especially if you're unsure at the start. If you are unsure what's just happened and you didn't bring it up at the moment, but then you go and talk to one of your team members, you go talk to your mentor or someone and go, hey, this just happened. Was I right to feel this? Or is it right for me to bring this up with them? And then get some reassurance like, yeah, no, totally, that wasn't appropriate. And you go, okay, cool. I'll look out for that, because sometimes it does take a little bit of a radar to work out, wait, what is okay and what is not okay? And am I being overly sensitive to a random topic that is just in my bias, or is this something that is generally inappropriate? Like if someone, insulted the Houston Rockets in front of me, I'd take that very emotionally because they're my basketball team. But that's probably just my bias, and I don't think I should call them out on that. So I guess there's levels to it. Yeah.
I agree 100% with that. I think, in answer to your question, yes, you should absolutely feel like you can discuss these difficult things with people. There might be a filtering process of going, just like Archie said, I might need to investigate why I felt the way that I felt in that situation. And I might do that externally by chatting to a mentor or a colleague or someone that I can bounce these things off, and then go back to that person a little bit later on. I think that's, particularly if this is something new to you, probably a good way to do it, so that you can actually check your biases in that situation and go, like, hang on a minute, is the response based on just my own personal feelings about a particular situation, or is this actually not the type of environment that we want to create for other team members or other clients? And like you said, it doesn't mean you have to do it in the moment. You might come back to that later on and say, actually, when you said this thing, that was a bit inappropriate.
Yeah, I almost think it shows respect to the person if you are willing to take the time to discuss it with them. Maybe not going in with the intention of changing who they are as a person, but maybe they were just not aware. And most people don't actually want to make you uncomfortable. I've realized through some of these experiences, they just aren't aware. And then there are others who you'll never change them, and they might never get it. And they might just not get it from you, and that's okay. So sometimes there are different answers to that, and you can cut your losses and move on. But yeah.
So I guess with the kind of inappropriate behavior or conversation we're talking about now, it'll be useful to give some people some, not scripts so much as helpful ways to approach actually having this conversation, because I feel like this is where a lot of people get stuck. So they hear something where they go, oh, that's not okay to talk about, but they get stuck going, how do I say this is not appropriate to talk about in the gym here without going, oi, don't say that. And, for lack of a better word, scolding someone for just saying something. So, Jo, do you have some suggestions of how people can actually approach these situations in a constructive way?
So I think first you need to do it when you're not emotional about the situation, or when you've had the time or experience to check yourself and make sure that you're not coming in with that red hot emotional, whether it's aggressiveness or whether it's being upset, because that often just fires up the other person. And also it's hard for you to communicate when you're upset or really irritated about something. So I think if you're able to do it at the time and step back and remain calm, that's great, but that probably comes with experience. So if not, discussing it with your colleagues later and then coming back even the next session, I think is totally acceptable, because then you can actually create that space for an open and honest discussion. I like to ask permission, because you're going to find out pretty quickly whether they're it's even going to be worth your time to have that talk with them by asking permission. So you can say something like, hey, I'll just say Sandy.
Sandy.
Sandy. Because
What
I
did
don't know
Sandy
anyone
do
named
to you?
Sandy.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Sandy, I was just thinking about what you said in the gym the other day in regards to X. I was wondering if we could talk a little bit more about that now.
That's not offensive, but it's direct enough to go, Sandy, I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty direct,
Yeah.
so it's actually difficult to make it sound nice.
Yes.
Because what I
Yeah.
want to go is, that wasn't okay, what you said back there.
Yeah.
But you can't do that to people.
No.
That's probably not how I would want to be spoken to.
Yeah.
Especially by someone who maybe is in that position of slight power or who you don't know very well.
I guess, Jo, you definitely fall more on the comfort with direct conversations than a lot of other people perhaps are.
Where do you think you fall on that scale?
Also on that scale, also on that side. Andrew, where do you fall on this
I
scale?
would definitely fall further away from that
Interesting.
side of things.
So maybe this would
Just
be harder.
naturally
Yeah.
harder. So it would probably take more pre-planning for me, and I would probably, well, when I've had to do this, I've written down what I wanted to say to that
Nice.
person, so that I wasn't going to get the words all jumbled, or I wasn't going to let the way that I'm feeling sort of come out in that conversation. I'd kind of rehearsed it a little bit.
What are some ways that you phrase that entryway into the conversation?
I think very similarly to what you've said there, like, would it be okay if we had a conversation about what happened last time or something like that? I would do it more one-to-one than, trying to pull somebody into a group session. Or if I notice something happen in a group, I would probably wait until that person is in a more one-to-one situation.
For sure.
To deliver that. And yeah, like you said, just check my emotions on it, because I feel like maybe that's a reflection of where I sit on this little spectrum, but I could feel my emotions coming up pretty quickly, and the conversation turn a little bit not so useful if I let those emotions kind of wrap a hold of the conversation.
So
Yeah.
step one is make sure you're in a calm state before you approach the conversation. If that requires you to pause or reset your nervous system somehow or come back another day, good way to do it. Second step is come in with a plan if that's something you feel like you need to do, and then ask permission to actually have the conversation in a polite way. Cool. First two steps.
Yep.
Where to from here?
I think checking with them what they meant is kind of a nice way to do it.
Yes.
Because sometimes people say things and then it's not really what they meant, but it's how we interpreted it. So, Sandy, Sandy, I heard you say this the other day. I just wanted to check what you meant by that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Jo, I think that's a perfect example of what I would call seeking to understand first. So before you challenge anyone or provide feedback, it should be seek to understand what they meant and let them clarify first. Because maybe they'll go, oh, I'm sorry, that was an offhand joke. I was having a really bad day. I don't actually normally talk like that. I apologize. And you go, oh, I didn't need to do anything. That's great.
Yeah.
And then you can relax and everything goes back to normal. But if you don't actually seek to understand, then you may actually, go down a rabbit hole. Ooh, rabbit hole.
Woo, a white rabbit hole.
A white rabbit hole that you don't need to. And then you're going to be on completely different pages with the person you're having a discussion with. So yeah, I like the idea of step 3 definitely being seeking to understand.
Yeah, I really try and avoid using the word why. In general, across all of my practice, even why didn't you do your exercises?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why didn't you do your exercises sounds very different to what got in the way of you doing your exercises. Even in my tone, I'm not trying to change it, and I think it sounds different. I think why is very filled with blame.
Yes.
And people hear that, even if that's not what you mean.
I think I may actually have said this on our last podcast with Ryan, but because that was in a book I was reading as well, that the word why immediately challenges the other person and puts them on the back foot. And that's not where you want them at all.
No.
You want to provide them space. Yeah. So yes.
Oh, cool.
Don't use why. Good start. Cool. Okay. So that's first 3 steps. Ideally, they just, resolve the problem resolves there.
They self-resolve.
They
reflect.
Self-resolve. They reflect and they go, you know what, Jo, you were right this whole time. I will now preach everything you say, and I will do my exercises, and you have a great day, and you high five, and that's the day.
And they're cured.
Yeah, and they're cured just
No
like
more
that.
diabetes.
But on the off occasion that their blood sugar is not lowered, in the conversation,
What?
where do we go from here?
So you do have to hear them, and you have to actually look at them and pay attention and show them that you're listening, so that they are aware that you're taking them seriously and you're ready to have that conversation. It really depends on what they say next, because if they show no sign of being able to reflect on why that behavior in particular was inappropriate, then you've got to start digging a little bit deeper if you want to bring that to their attention. So let's say, should we come up with a scenario?
Sure.
What has Sandy done?
Sandy commented on someone else in the gym's weight.
Yeah.
In an inappropriate way.
Yeah.
That's what she did.
With the head.
With the head.
Sass.
And click.
Yeah. Okay, so Sandy's said, yeah, because they're really overweight and it means that it's not working. Probably my default is to go into the more direct addressing that. And I don't know if this is the right thing to do. There are probably different ways of approaching it. But one of the things that I would probably try is something like, Sandy, in this setting, we don't try and comment on people's weight because it's not a reflection of their work or their worth as a person.
That's amazing.
Sounds like pretty heavy though.
Yeah, it does sound heavy. Yeah. But I think it gets the point across. It's like, well, I think what we've created here is some gym talk tips. And I think there's like some do's and don'ts of how to comment and talk about or compliment other people in the gym on how they're doing, that sort of thing. And what we say in terms of that stuff is like, you don't comment on someone's appearance, you comment on their performance, perhaps. So you might be able to go about it that way with this person.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't normally comment on people's appearance in here. We try and compliment them on how they're going or on their performance.
Yeah, we want this to be a really encouraging space for people. And we find that focusing on their weight is detrimental to that. So we just try and steer clear.
Yeah, lovely.
What do you reckon, Andrew?
Yeah. What happens next? What happens when Sandy pushes back?
Yeah, I reckon Sandy gets a little defensive, which is understandable. Just basically told them that I really didn't like what they did there. I think the natural reaction is to get a bit defensive. They might try and then explain what they meant further, which I think can actually be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. It's like, I can really see now that you weren't trying to offend them. Do you think in the future, though, we could try and avoid commenting on other people and just focus on ourselves a little bit more? Because you're the most important person to me in this consult right now. So I want to make sure that we're working towards your goals. I'd redirect back onto them.
I'd love for us to focus more on what we're doing at the moment. Really, really tuned into that. There is also this point where they push back and continue to push back. And then you have to just know that when it's time to exit the conversation because you may not get a resolution to it, and that's okay. And if you feel like it's really starting to go down a hole and it's just going to become argumentative, and if you can feel that you are no longer in a calm state or they are no longer in a calm state, then it is not worth having this conversation at all. As soon as either party has elevated heart rate and is going a little bit, exit, I think. Because,
yeah, absolutely. That's really important.
yeah, now there's too much emotion involved and you're not having an actual constructive conversation.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, look, happy to leave it there. Why don't we start talking about something else? And I'm sure both parties will be happy to.
Yeah. Let's park this for now.
Yeah, let's park this. Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. Well, why don't we park that conversation for now
Oh,
and move on? Yeah, I know.
Very nice.
Okay.
Awesome. Very good. Quick beer check-in. Mine's going down very fast, but I think that's because... Oh, shit. I had to take that back. Andrew's is almost empty.
Oh, wow.
I think that means Andrew needs to be doing more talking.
well, one thing I think Jo does incredibly well is setting boundaries with clients. I think you do that very, very well. And you touched on before around when clients are not adhering to the intervention that we are giving to them. Perhaps we just
Yeah.
start with a more general conversation about what is appropriate and what's not appropriate from a boundaries perspective between a clinician and a client.
Yeah. So there's the clinician-client relationship, and then I also think there's your own relationship that you have with your work and what you do with that when you leave. And so I think there's like your self boundaries, and then there's boundaries that you try and set up with other people. And so if we're talking about the client and the practitioner, I think there's always a slight power dynamic, even if in allied health it can not appear that way. But ultimately, someone is coming to you for a service that they're paying for. You are the expert in that field, and therefore you are not on an even playing field. So I think you have to respect that, because I don't think that my clients are my friends, and it doesn't mean that I can't treat them in a friendly manner or with respect and have a fun time, but I think then really needs to be that clear. I am the health authority in this situation, and I can't cross that line with you, because then I think it gives people permission to maybe be a little bit more inappropriate. What do you think, Archie?
I think there's definitely levels to this. So I'm someone who I message clients on my own phone because I feel like I can check in with them more regularly that way. I feel like it brings the dynamic closer to the middle, which is what I want. I don't want there to be as much of a gap of me, authority, and them listening to me. So I feel like text message allows us to be closer to that conversational level, casual level with them, with the appropriate clients. Some clients are not appropriate for that. So with those clients who are appropriate for it, I think it really helps. Sometimes you do get people who not take advantage of that, but take some liberties with Archie responds to my text messages when I send text messages. So then it's about setting boundaries about when you respond to text messages. So on a general basis, I try not to reply outside of work hours or on weekends.
Yeah.
You know, if I've just got in the car to go home and I get a message, sure, I'll have a look. And if it feels like it's important, then I'll respond to it. So I might look at it, but not respond to it if I feel like I need to know. But on the weekends, generally things can wait.
Yes.
You know, like I'm not their doctor. If they've got something serious going on, look, they can probably get some help. If they say, Archie, I'm dying, I might respond.
You might get
just
me.
to go, here is who can help. If you're dying, I can't help. That I didn't have an exercise for that one, unfortunately.
That's a bit outside of my
Yeah, a
scope.
bit outside scope. But yes, to try and create that separation, I do not respond outside of work hours. That requires some
self-regulation.
Self-regulation, that's the word I'm looking for. I don't feel like I get dragged back into my work head by seeing text messages. I know that a lot of people do. And so I would not recommend that to people who feel like they struggle to turn off their work brain, even just with normal work things.
That's why I don't do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because there's no way that I could look at that message and then not think about it for the entire weekend. So I need to, for my own health, set up some really strong boundaries. I need to be very direct with myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. Do you communicate those boundaries to clients?
I would never suggest giving them my number, so I don't make that an option. If they say, how do I contact you? I say, you can email me. And I email frequently. That's probably my main form of contact after asking them which method they prefer best. If it's text message, I can text them from the clinic line. And I just say, this is our clinic number. And that's why I get some spicy texts on the clinic number that everybody gets to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that was going to my home phone, I'd feel so uncomfortable. But because it's going to the work line, I can manage that. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I feel like the vast majority of people don't expect an answer outside of work hours, even if you don't say it. Like if you see someone on a Friday and they send you a message on a Saturday, I feel like most people who message a health professional on a Saturday will half go, oh, they might not see us until Monday, but that's okay. I think should be a general assumption for most people. So I guess in terms of self-managing, self-regulating, knowing what your own tolerances are for having work brain turned on is very, very important.
Absolutely.
How, I guess another situation that comes up, Andrew, you probably had this situation come up over the years as well, with clients who try and push a friendship by inviting you to other activities or inviting you, hey, we should go for coffee one time, or hey, you should come to my house, I'm having a birthday party. Or if they're a younger client and maybe with a disability. I know we've had practitioners invited to birthday parties before. And managing that, obviously you probably should not go to a client's birthday party if you are their health professional. In my opinion, I don't think you should. Andrew, have you had to manage any of these situations over the past? And how was the birthday party?
I definitely went to the birthday party. This one I feel a little bit torn on. And perhaps that's the perspective of being the practitioner and the business owner at the same time, where I feel like I could read those text messages and for that 1 minute be the practitioner, but the next minute switch off and not be that practitioner anymore. I find that fairly easy to do. And part of I suppose my journey with this has been around seeing clients for quite prolonged periods of time where I did become friendly with them. There was still a transaction that was taking place, that they were still coming and they were still, when they came to the clinic, they were my client. But going and having a coffee, going and going to the birthday party or whatever, it didn't feel weird. It didn't feel like I was crossing a boundary when I was doing that, because when I felt like I was there as a friend, not as a practitioner. What you were talking about before, Jo, about like knowing that kind of feeling when you've crossed the line, didn't get that feeling.
Yeah.
It was natural to be there, that there wasn't a weirdness associated with that.
Here?
Yeah. However, there are definitely instances where it did cross lines, right? I am the same, Archie. Like, people would message me and I would message people from my own phone. and there were times when that was not used appropriately. But I don't think I'd do it differently knowing that now. I would still do it the same way. Just because I find I know where the line is.
Yeah.
And there's no way to like document exactly what that is. I know where the line is, and if it gets inappropriate, like that's it. Like there's a full stop there. Yeah, does that kind of answer?
It does. Because I'm the same. Like I'm happy to take messages. I like being accessible. I think it adds to the client experience that I can add. Where I've found it difficult is having the conversation when it does cross the line and going, oh, how do I backpedal from here? Because it's been so useful and such a good open line of communication. And now they've just invited me to, come to their place and, hang out. And I'm like, oh, wait, I don't want to do that with them. How do I, I guess the question is then, how do you then once pull back from that really difficult situation that you put yourself in, where it's like, I'm being really friendly, and I feel like a friend over messages, and that seems to feel okay at this point, but then they've asked me to do something that friends would do, and now I go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think perhaps part of the answer to that is knowing who you're communicating to, right?
Yeah.
Despite what I just said, that was a very generalized comment, and there were definitely some clients where I was like, I'm not even going anywhere near that line.
Yeah.
Because I know that it could be used inappropriately or excessively.
Yeah.
If I allowed them that kind of liberty of me being contactable at any time.
Absolutely.
Whereas the other ones who, you didn't feel like they were going to sort of abuse what communication channels we had together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't going to go that way.
Yeah.
You'd think it wouldn't go that way.
I've definitely made mistakes. And then my exit strategy from turning down the invite or something, I've had varying levels of success with.
What's an example?
What's an example? De-identified. Someone said, oh, we should catch up for a coffee and talk about this topic that we love talking about all the time. And me going, I really don't want to catch up for coffee. That conversation, I wasn't actually seeing that client anymore. They still had my number, so they messaged me. And I just didn't answer that one because I was like, I don't know what to say. That was a bad example, bad way of doing it. Other ones, I've had emails like, hey, can you come over and move this table for me? Yeah. Basically do this handiwork for me because,
you're young and fit.
I'm young and fit. And that one, I made a very nice response and said, look, it's actually inappropriate for me to come and do these other tasks for you. I know some people, or I know some ways that you can get help doing this, such as hire a hubby, and that sort of thing. If you need help with that sort of stuff, let me know if you need any help organising that. I can send you in the right direction.
I think the helpful approach is good.
Helpful approach.
That's not
Yeah.
me. I can't do that. But look, and then it's less awkward.
Way less awkward, and very effective. It's always hard writing that response. Once it's sent, you feel so good. And it generally comes back with a good answer.
Yeah.
As like that's understandable. I thought I'd just ask. Because I guarantee the other person has not put as much effort into to the question or the offering as you're putting into the response. Because they're just going, oh, kind of sounds like Joe might want to hang out or something. Hey, do you want to hang out? And then we go, oh my God, how do I possibly answer this question? Whereas they're like, oh, well, Joe said no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. And it would have been fine.
What about like hugging your clients at work? How do you
Hugging clients
feel
at
about
work.
that?
I've hugged clients at work.
Yep. Is there different situations
Definitely.
where it's good and then when it's bad?
Lots of like middle-aged women.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know.
Archibald.
They just seem to have
They
been the
just
most
love him.
huggy kind of people. Like maybe they've been away for 3 months, and they come back. They're like, "Oh, it's so good to see you," and I go, "Ah," and they put their hands out to hug. I go, "Oh yeah,
yeah.
you're my mum's age."
Oh, good.
Or like, I don't know, some clients are like, oh, when you, it's happened a couple of times, like discharging after like a really good
Yeah.
treatment journey, and they just want a hug, and sometimes they ask, and so I was like, can I have a hug? And then I go, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you do have to think.
I do, yeah, think. I like it when they ask. That was
Yeah.
good.
Oh, that's so
I
nice.
can think about it.
It's like,
Yeah.
thank you. I really respect that.
Yeah, yeah. The other times when it's happened is the classic one of like younger client with an intellectual disability comes up and hugs you, and you go, "Oh, hug, okay, yep, hold on, we don't, I don't really, yeah." We have a couple huggers in the clinic at the moment,
We do.
and we're in a stage of we're practicing. It's like, oh, wait, hold up, got to ask permission before you hug anyone or touch anyone else. Ask permission first, and then they say, "Can I have a hug?" And I go, "Not right now. Thank you for asking, though."
Yeah. Or what about a high five? Or
Yeah.
what about a fist bump?
Yeah.
Some other option.
Redirect to something more appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely works. Like I've noticed with those clients that they are learning.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're not just running up to you and throwing themselves at you, which
Exactly.
can be a bit scary and sometimes a little bit dangerous for them. Elbow to the jaw. That's my first reaction. Bit of a startle reflex.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely a bit of that. So yes, definitely helpful to redirect to something helpful because they are learning, and it can be a positive thing to help them learn. All right, I'm going to hold it right there with part 1 of our episode with Jo. When we come back, we're going to be moving topics to a little bit different one, more talking about managing challenging behaviours with our neurodiverse, neurodivergent population. So tune in for that one. See ya.